Most actors become famous because people are impressed by them. Choi Woo-shik became famous because people felt strangely safe watching him. In an industry built on sharp jawlines, loud personalities, and carefully manufactured perfection, he looked different, softer, quieter, almost fragile. His smile never felt like the smile of a celebrity. It felt human. And maybe that was exactly why audiences became attached to him so quickly. But the more comforting his image became, the more impossible it was for him to escape it. Because once the world decides you are their safe place, they stop asking whether you are tired too. By the time Parasite exploded across the world, Choi Woo-shik was no longer just another Korean actor trying to survive in Seoul. Overnight, he became part of cinema history. Cameras followed him through airports. International reporters repeated his name with awkward pronunciation. Clips of his interviews spread online because people loved how shy and awkward he looked compared to typical movie stars. At Cannes, he looked overwhelmed. At the Oscars, he smiled constantly. But behind all the flashing lights, something strange was happening to his image. The public was no longer seeing him as a person. They were turning him into a feeling, the safe guy, the comforting face, the harmless celebrity everyone wanted to protect. And that pressure only grew bigger after our beloved summer. The drama transformed him into something even more dangerous in Korean entertainment, emotionally relatable. Viewers were not just watching Choi Woo-shik anymore, they were projecting themselves onto him. His soft voice, tired eyes, awkward laughter, and gentle chemistry with Kim Da-mi created an image that felt almost too perfect for lonely audiences to let go of. Social media edits painted him like the boyfriend every person wished existed in real life. Interview clips with calm background music collected millions of views. Fans described him as healing, comforting, pure. But once an actor becomes a fantasy for millions of strangers, maintaining that image becomes exhausting. Because the truth is, Choi Woo-shik never looked comfortable with fame. Even during major interviews, his body language often seemed smaller than the room around him. While other celebrities learned how to dominate attention, he almost looked like someone trying to quietly survive it. And maybe that was what made people love him even more. His vulnerability felt real in an entertainment industry that constantly feels artificial. But vulnerability also attracts projection. Fans started expecting him to remain emotionally soft forever, calm forever, kind forever, as if becoming famous had erased his right to be anything else. In Korean entertainment, stars are often rewarded for being loud enough to dominate headlines. Choi Woo-shik survived by doing the opposite. He became quieter, softer, more emotionally accessible, and somehow that made audiences even more obsessed with him. Because in a world full of celebrities trying desperately to appear untouchable, he looked like someone who could still get hurt. Long before the cameras, the Cannes red carpets, and the worldwide fame, Choi Woo-shik was just a quiet kid trying to survive between two different worlds. Born in South Korea but raised partly in Canada, he grew up feeling disconnected from the image that Korean society often expects from future celebrities. He was not the tall, intimidating trainee with overwhelming charisma. He did not have the polished confidence of an idol preparing for fame since childhood. In fact, one of the reasons people relate to him so deeply today is because he never looked like someone destined to become a star. While many actors in Korea are introduced to audiences through powerful visuals or explosive screen presence, Woo-shik felt ordinary in a strangely emotional way. And growing up overseas only made that feeling stronger. In Canada, he lived a relatively normal life. School, friends, quiet routines. Acting was not originally part of some grand plan to dominate the entertainment industry. But eventually, something pulled him back toward Korea. And when he returned, he entered an industry where almost everything about him seemed wrong for traditional stardom. The early years were uncomfortable. He started with tiny supporting roles, often appearing briefly before disappearing again. No massive fandoms, no explosive media attention, no instant celebrity aura. But directors slowly began noticing something unusual about him. His acting never felt forced. Even when standing beside louder performers, Woo-shik had a way of making scenes feel painfully real. His emotions looked natural instead of dramatic. His awkwardness looked genuine instead of scripted. And over time, that honesty became his biggest weapon. While other actors tried to appear larger than life, Choi Woo-shik quietly mastered the art of feeling human on screen. That emotional realism eventually became impossible for the industry to ignore. Audiences started remembering his face, even from small scenes. Not because he demanded attention, but because he felt believable. Before the awards, before Parasite, before millions of people called him comforting, Choi Woo-shik spent years building a career through vulnerability. And maybe that is why his success feels different from many other celebrities. It never looked like he conquered fame. It looked like fame slowly found him anyway. For years, Choi Woo-shik existed quietly inside the Korean entertainment industry. Directors respected him, certain audiences recognized him, but he still felt like an actor floating just outside the center of fame. Then came Train to Busan. The film exploded across Asia and became one of the biggest Korean movies of its generation. And inside all the chaos, zombies, and panic, audiences suddenly noticed Woo-shik in a completely different way. His performance carried fear that felt painfully believable. He did not act like a hero pretending to survive. He looked like an ordinary person genuinely terrified of the world collapsing around him. That emotional realism stayed with viewers long after the movie ended. For many people, Train to Busan was the first time Choi Woo-shik stopped feeling like a supporting actor and started feeling unforgettable. But even then, nobody could predict what would happen next. Not long after, Bong Joon-ho cast him again in Okja. Compared to Parasite, the film was smaller in mainstream popularity, but it quietly changed Woo-shik's career forever. It introduced him to larger international audiences and brought him back to Cannes. More importantly, it strengthened his connection with Bong Joon-ho, a relationship that would completely alter his future. At this point, Woo-shik was still building his reputation slowly, almost carefully. He was not becoming famous through scandals, viral controversies, or aggressive celebrity marketing. He was earning attention through trust. Directors trusted him with emotional scenes. Audiences trusted him to feel real. And that reputation eventually led him toward the project that changed not only his career, but the history of Korean cinema itself. When Parasite arrived, everything exploded. The movie did not simply become successful, it became global cultural history. Suddenly, Choi Woo-shik was standing on stages he probably never imagined as a struggling young actor returning from Canada years earlier. Cannes, Hollywood, the Oscars, international interviews, endless flashing cameras. Parasite shattered the invisible wall between Korean cinema and mainstream global recognition, and Woo-shik became one of the faces attached to that moment forever. Around the world, audiences connected deeply with his portrayal of Ki-woo. He looked ambitious but vulnerable, smart but desperate, hopeful but already emotionally exhausted. The role captured exactly what makes Choi Woo-shik different from many actors, his ability to make pain feel quiet instead of dramatic. And strangely, worldwide fame only made his image softer. While some actors transform into unreachable superstars after massive success, Woo-shik still looked awkward in interviews, still laughed nervously, still felt emotionally accessible. That became part of his charm internationally. Fans loved that he did not seem obsessed with looking perfect. In a celebrity culture full of polished answers and carefully manufactured personalities, Choi Woo-shik looked emotionally transparent, almost fragile. Clips of him speaking English during American interviews spread everywhere online because people found him unexpectedly relatable. Instead of becoming intimidating after Parasite, he somehow became even more comforting. Then came Our Beloved Summer. And that drama changed his image again, this time emotionally. Parasite gave him prestige, but Our Beloved Summer gave him intimacy with audiences. His performance as Choi Eung felt painfully personal to many viewers, especially younger audiences struggling with loneliness, burnout, or emotional confusion. The drama's quiet atmosphere matched his acting style perfectly. Suddenly, social media became flooded with edits of his soft expressions, tired smiles, and emotional scenes with Kim Da-mi. Fans no longer admired him only as a talented actor. They became emotionally attached to the feeling he created on screen. He became the internet's comfort actor. The soft-spoken boyfriend figure people escaped into when real life felt overwhelming. But there is something dangerous about becoming emotional comfort for millions of strangers. The bigger his image became, the more pressure followed him silently. Every public appearance needed to feel warm. Every interview needed to feel humble. Every smile needed to look genuine. And maybe that is why even at the height of success, there is still something quietly sad about Choi Woo-shik's image. Fame gave him recognition, but it also trapped him inside the expectations of people who never wanted him to stop being comforting. In a Korean entertainment industry constantly chasing louder headlines, bigger scandals, and more extreme personalities, Choi Woo-shik somehow survived by becoming quieter. Even after global fame, he never transformed into the type of celebrity who dominates attention everywhere he goes. He still speaks softly during interviews, still smiles awkwardly when cameras focus on him too long, still carries himself more like an ordinary person accidentally trapped inside fame than a superstar completely comfortable with it. And maybe that is why audiences continue holding on to him so tightly. Because in a world full of celebrities trying to appear untouchable, Choi Woo-shik still feels emotionally reachable. But that kind of image comes with its own exhaustion. When millions of people see you as comfort, eventually they stop wondering whether you need comfort too. The pressure becomes invisible, not dramatic enough for headlines, not explosive enough for scandals, just constant, quiet, heavy. Unlike many celebrities who maintain attention through controversy or carefully manufactured chaos, Woo-shik's career has remained strangely calm. And perhaps that calmness is exactly what makes him stand out now. In an era where audiences are overwhelmed by noise every single day, his silence almost feels rare. Over the years, his image slowly evolved into something bigger than acting itself. Fans no longer just watched Choi Woo-shik because of his performances. They watched him because of the emotional atmosphere surrounding him. The tired smile, the soft eyes, the awkward laughter during interviews. The feeling that he never fully adjusted to being famous, even after standing on the biggest stages in the world. That emotional vulnerability became part of his identity. And while it made millions of people love him, it also created impossible expectations. The public wanted him to remain comforting forever, humble forever, emotionally safe forever. Every appearance needed to feel warm, every interaction needed to feel sincere. In many ways, Choi Woo-shik became trapped inside the version of himself that audiences created, not through scandal or controversy, but through affection so intense it slowly became pressure. Today, even with international recognition, blockbuster films, luxury brand invitations, and global popularity, there is still something unusually lonely about his image. Maybe it is the way he pauses before answering questions. Maybe it is the way his smiles sometimes look smaller after cameras stop flashing. Or maybe it is because audiences can still see traces of the quiet outsider he used to be before fame arrived. The boy from Canada, who never looked like he belonged perfectly inside the entertainment industry, somehow became one of its most beloved faces. But unlike many stars who appear larger than life after success, Choi Woo-shik still feels emotionally fragile in a way that people cannot stop watching. And perhaps that is why his career continues to resonate so deeply. He reminds audiences that softness can survive inside an industry built to destroy it. Parasite gave him worldwide recognition. Our Beloved Summer made people emotionally attached to him. But neither project fully explains why audiences continue returning to Choi Woo-shik years later. The real reason may be much simpler. In a celebrity culture obsessed with perfection, he still feels human. Not invincible, not unreachable, human. And maybe that quiet humanity became his greatest strength, even if carrying it sometimes looks painfully exhausting.